This is the second half of the MLA format presentation. As I said earlier, in MLA documentation there are two parts, the in-text citations and the list of works cited. Every essay that incorporates research must not only have in-text citations, but also must alphabetize the list of all the sources used on a works cited page, which follows the essay so sources can be traced. Because our essays are turned in online, the use of URLs and entries can be helpful, but not for an article from one of the library's databases, as access requires a password. When you use a URL, include the access date. So, the way the system works is that there are key pieces of information that are pretty much expected in every type of source. Now, there are no placeholders, so if something is missing, you just pass on to the next item. The simplest example is a book. Begins with the author. Last name first, first name last, Tuckman, Barbara, W, and then there's a period. Period ends the author information. Then there's the title of the book, which is A Distant Mirror, the Calamitous 14th Century. It is put into italics because large works are italicized. You see this colon here after mirror. That separates the title from the subtitle. A Distant Mirror is the title. Calamitous 14th Century is the subtitle. Period again at the end of that information. Publisher is Ballantine, the year of publication was 1978. Period. You may notice that we no longer ask for the city of publication. Another work, based in print, might be an anthology. An anthology is a collection. It's a book which has many short works, such as articles, essays, poems, what have you, by many different people. So here's a work from an anthology. Here we begin with the authors of the individual work, Wallerstein, Judith S., and Sandra Blakesley, period. Please note that the second author has the name straight, that is, first name first, last name last. Only the lead author is inverted. And please remember, keep the order the same as it shows on the byline. The work is called Patterns in Marriage, which has quotation marks around it because it's a short work living inside a bigger work called the container. Patterns in Marriage, period. The container, which in this case is the anthology itself. The main event, Readings for Writing and Critical Thinking. Italicized, and again you notice the use of a colon. But here we don't have a period, we have a comma, because the anthology information is not complete. Anthologies or collections have editors, edited by, and then you give the name of the editors, then a comma, then the publishing house, in this case Prentice Hall, another comma, year of publication, in this case 2005. We're not done yet. Another comma, and then the page numbers that Patterns in Marriage appears on in the text. So you see the double P, PP, period, 198 to 207, and then finally the period. A magazine article, and again, this is if you have the physical print copy in front of you, not an online magazine. Author, period, title, period, name of the periodical, National Geographic, that's in italics, comma, the publication month, which is August 2017, comma, and then the page numbers again on which that article appeared in the National Geographic, period. Very similar system for a newspaper article. Author, title, periodical, in this case it's the New York Times, comma, date, which is now a very specific date, 13th of August, 2017, comma, page numbers, and then we have, as happens sometimes with newspapers, the letter number system. Also, you see that plus sign after the number 1. That plus sign is to indicate that the article went on in a non-sequential fashion. This is common in newspapers. It doesn't go to page 1, 2, 3, and 4. It goes from page 1 to something like page 6 or page 8, right? But you don't have to worry about those different jumps. Movies. A movie can be listed in a lot of different ways. For our class, because we're not a film studies group, we're going to list it by the title. Title would be italicized and have a period at the end. In this case, personal shopper. Then the director information, directed by, in this case, Olivia Assayas. Performance by Kirsten Stewart. Usually just the most important actors are listed for the performance. The studio, which released the movie, Les Films du Losange, sorry about my French, comma, the year of its release, 2007, period. Maybe you didn't see this in the theater. Maybe you saw it on a streaming service. If that's the case, then you can list that afterwards. In this case, we say Amazon Video, period. Now, websites basically come in two forms. Think of it this way. There are websites that take us to print publication data. That is to say, these are websites that give us, kind of like a clipping service, articles, books, in fact, that have been published, and we're just getting it online. So basically what we do is we put the print information first, as if we have the material in actual print. Here we have the author's title, racial discrimination and death penalty in Tennessee, an empirical assessment, period. The title of the journal, Tennessee Journal of Law and Policy, volume number 5, number 1, 2004, begins on page 3. But we didn't actually get the Tennessee Journal of Law and Policy in print form. We found it on a website called Google Scholar. And by the way, if you're not familiar with Google Scholar, it is a part of Google, obviously, which has scholarly work, peer-reviewed work. Many of my students find it very, very helpful. So this particular example may come in handy for you. Other times you may have information. A lot of the web has work that only appears on the web. It's not an ebook. It's not a reprint of an article published in a newspaper or a magazine or a journal. It is just there on the web, and that's it. In this case, I would really prefer that you make sure that you include the URL and an access date so that it can be found. Reinberg, Stephen, there's the author. Title, stroke rates drop for U.S. men but not for women. What's going on with that? I don't know. I have to read about it. The website is WebMD, period. Good, credible website. The date of publication is the 9th of August, 2017. Then here's the URL. And then there's the access date. This is the day I went online and actually found it. So it may get changed later, right? Probably will. But on the 13th of August, 2017, that article was at that URL. Now, Mesa has a number of databases that you can use. If you don't know how, I encourage you to watch the Triangle of Research videos, because that's where I talk about how to access our library resources. There are a lot of different databases that we have. Two of the biggest ones are EBSCOhost and JSTOR, and those are two of the ones that I featured right here. Again, it is just as if you had the magazine or newspaper in front of you. You give the author, Francisco Rubino, title, Operation Diabetes, title of the magazine, in this case, Scientific American, the date of publication, July 2017, page number on which that article appeared. That is all as if I had the actual Scientific American sitting in front of me. And then the database, italicized, EBSCOhost, period. There's no point in including the URL because it wouldn't work even if I clicked on it, because it's a subscription service have to buy into it. The next piece is like a journal. Is an article from a journal. Here we have the name, et al. You remember that from the first page. It means and others. Fear in the Age of Displacement, that's the title, period. Transition, that's the periodical. In this case, it's a journal, italicized. The volume, the issue number, the year of publication, the page numbers. JSTOR, the database, italicized. And one of the other databases that we have, which is very helpful to a lot of students, is a Newspaper Source Plus, where, as it sounds like, you can look at newspaper articles. Pat Reevey, Utahns to Aid Californians, Deseret News. Now, the one thing that may happen in this example, we do not know the city of publication. Many newspapers have a city or region in their title. New York Times, San Diego Union Tribune, Orange County Register. But some of them do not. And when they do not, you should include the region or city in brackets afterwards. Salt Lake City, you can see here, is in brackets, then the date, then the page numbers, there's that plus sign, remember that, and then Newspaper Source Plus. This may not cover absolutely everything you need, but between this and the sources that are available to you through Purdue OWL on the web links and the MLA citation site itself, you should be able to do just fine.